Good evening. Welcome along. It's the Whispering Bobcast. This is episode 3. We're sitting here live. We're in rainy Oxfordshire. I'm in the Under the Apple Tree studios. My son Miles is with me, acting as mixer, floor manager, and a million other roles as well. And we have some fantastic stuff set up for you on the Bobcast tonight.
My eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night.
You can see this world with dignity.
Indeed, and we'll be taking a deep dive into one or two of my vintage playlists, courtesy of Alex Bramer. We'll be reading out the winning playlist and acknowledging the winner of this week's playlist competition. All of that coming up a little later on. Lukas Nelson, who's in Hawaii, will join us live soon. Emily Barker is going to be playing live for us as well. But before all of that, we're just about to join the great Todd Snider.
I didn't know him as well as I tell everyone I did. Hell, he was nearly 50 and I was only a kid. But even way back in those missing years when he was still just catching on, there was nobody better than the handsome John. For you're a real McCoy. Here come the singing, the mailman from Maywood, Illinois. Oh, 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 boy. The next time I saw him, he walked off to paradise. Any that I would say that I still take for advice, for with a plain spoken word and a simple melody, you can see this world with dignity. Singing the mailman from Maywood, Illinois. Oh, 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 crying out in tears of victory, for with a few still missing and a new one coming on, there was still nobody better than a handsome John. I said, oh, look no further for your real here comes singing the mailman from Maywood, Illinois. I said,
Well, it's a song from the new Todd Snider album, First Agnostic Church of Hope and Wonder. I jotted that down just to make absolutely sure I got the title right. And Todd Snider. Todd, where are you at the moment? Are you in Nashville?
Nashville, yeah. I'm in Hendersonville today. I'm
Yeah,
here
okay.
Before Hendersonville. Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, we've got appalling weather here, I have to say, and I'm sure it's lovely in Nashville right now. But I was so pleased that you have played that song for us for the Bobcast today, because just before we talk about your new album, can we just have a quick John Prine conversation? Because I know that you were an absolutely massive fan.
Oh, yeah. I knew all the words to all the songs by heart. And he let me work for him and gradually worked up to being a singer. And I always have this one story about him I love to tell because it's him. We were on the road and we'd flown like 12 hours to London. Then we had to drive another hour to the gig. Well, right when we come out of the airport, John Prine says to the guy driving, I don't think it's this way. I think it's this way. And we drove 2 hours the wrong way after a 12-hour flight. And then we had to go backtrack and all that. And I remember everybody in the car was freaking out. Like, they weren't saying anything, but everybody was mad. And John didn't just not say anything. He wasn't mad. He really wasn't. I don't know where he gets that. I'd like to have that.
Because you do reference one or two of the songs and the album titles in that song that you have, Handsome John. And particularly, you know, that whole notion of the missing years, Todd, where, I mean, John even called an album The Missing Years, didn't he? Yeah.
That's how I met him on that one. It was a runner. You had, beer and cigarettes and stuff. That was one of my first jobs.
Listening to your new album, Todd, has been a joy, I must say. And to me, it represents it's a different sound. It's more percussive. The first 3 or 4 tracks, the drums are very prominent. They're very funky. There's a groove to it. Is this what you kind of been looking for?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm being, do this all the time, but I have records where I'll dive into genre kind of. And I had this whole album started with this idea of what I wanted to make folk with funk beats in the back. And we had our own studio at this time. So that way we could work like 3 days on every song. And so we could really, really play them and not rush. And we work mostly on the percussive stuff. And then I'd pick up all the instruments I know how to play. And then we edited out what we didn't like. It was a lot of fun, and I wish I could always work that way. But now that we have our own place, we probably can. But if you don't, that's just too much money.
Exactly.
And spend 3 days on a song.
And
they used to do
also,
it like that.
I know. I think most people did, didn't they? I mean, but nowadays, of course, certainly, the new music that we're hearing now, almost all of it has been affected by the pandemic and by the lockdown and by some themes and ideas of isolation and, more DIY maybe. So tell us about the process of this new album for you, John, Todd.
Okay, so we were wanting to make a record and talking about this sound that I was studying, and then the pandemic hit, and then we all got all that time off, and that helped us have time to build that studio. And so in September or something, I asked all the drummers in town if they knew this style called fatback by some guy named Stonefield, and the drummer, my buddy, Randy and what's his last name? Robbie Crowell. Oh, that sucks. I spaced that because he's the star of the record for my money. We would spend a lot of time on his parts, and then I would put some up the front. I forgot what I was saying now. I'm forgetting half the shit I say now. I'm 54.
Well, I just called you John, so we're about in the same boat here, Todd.
Yeah, I love watching your interviews. You do the one with Keith Richards in the red and white polka dotted striped jacket and the tooth missing.
Yeah, that's right.
These things are difficult.
Yeah, I mean, There is a bit of a story about that as well, because Whisper Test always used to be live in those days. We're talking about 1974, I think that interview was, Todd. And I saw him arrive through the window into the control room, and he was swinging a bottle of Jack Daniels between his fingers like this. And he came into the studio and set it down. And by the time we got to the moment of the start of the interview, he'd gone through about half of it, just sitting there in the studio. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, just finally now, I want to see the second song that you've done, but, we're talking about the lockdown and the impact of the lockdown and everything else. And, one of the things that you've done over the last, heaven knows how many years now, is tramp across America, playing everywhere. And here you are now in a period of time where you can't play. So what's that been like for you?
I've had some fun with it, but my favorite part of the music is the traveling. And so I miss going out and driving through America so fast, like we've been doing all these years. And it really, like my friends are scattered all over the place. And so for me to even see my friends, I have to be on the road. And when they shut it down, we weren't sure what to do. But I've been getting arthritis as an older man, and so we have a rehearsal hall down there. And we started setting it up to do live screen things. So if I got down to that place where I could only just play whenever I could play, like my hands feel good, turn it on. No. Like just a little delay. I thought I was like, where are you?
So where am I? I'm in Oxfordshire, in the middle of England. The green and pleasant land, Todd. I mean, it's been raining so much over the last few days and few weeks, actually, that spring is green more than color this year. It's beautifully rich. And the trouble is, it's also very cool. It's about 50 degrees, 11 Celsius, 52 Fahrenheit. It's been chilly. So it's much nicer in Nashville, I'm sure. And, later we're going to be talking to... Yeah, and Lukas Nelson's going to be with us later, and he's in Hawaii. So I'm sure it's gorgeous there. Anyway, it's great to talk.
Not really.
It's really good. So
I'm a fan of.
Can we hear? Me too. I mean, me too, obviously. So the second song you're doing for us, presumably it's another one from the new album.
I think so. Is it Sail On? Yeah, it's called Sail On.
Sail On, my friend.
And, I have a friend named Jeff Austin who fronted a band called what was it? Yonder Mountain String Band. My brain is going. So we became friends with them. Now, what was the question again? What was it again? I'll start over. Oh, we're live. This is perfect.
The second song, Sail On, my friend.
My friend Jeff Austin called me from the road and said he'd been booed off stage the night before. And he was in a way with it. And so his friend, he asked me, I called his mom. We got him into rehab, and then he came out of rehab and he was doing really good. And then 2 or 3 shows into rehab, he took his life after it. And nobody saw that coming. And I was the last person he called. He didn't tell me what he was thinking about doing at that time, but he knew. And this song, just like the John songs, the ones that make me sad are the hardest ones, but I chase them anyway. And this one is a pretty hard one. I'd rather not have this song. I'd rather probably not have the Handsome Young one too. I'd rather have him be here.
Todd, as always, it's been really, really good to see you. Take care of yourself, my friend. And
I love you, man. That was good.
Yeah. See you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, brother.
You knew I would say what I said. had I known it would go the way it would, I would have said this instead. Sail on, my friend. Sail on into a new horizon. If you can't play that same old song again, I say sail on. Let's just say you broke a string and we'll raise a toast to your hair. You don't have to play or sing for anyone else but yourself. Sail on, my friend. Sail on into a new horizon. If you can't play that same old song again, I say sail on. Break a leg in paradise, save a place for me. I don't know from good advice, so I'll just see you when I see you. Sail on, my friend. Sail on into a new horizon. If you can't play that same old song again, I say sail on. That's my friend Jeff Austin.
Yeah. Music from the First Agnostic Church of Hope and Wonder. Just to make sure I got the title absolutely right, but that's music from our great friend Todd Snider. So this is the Bobcast. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in. There is an opportunity, I think, Miles, am I right about this, for people to leave messages and get in touch with us?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure if you're watching this right now, you can see the little chat function that's going on the webpage. We'd love to hear from you through the show. If you have any questions for Bob or for anyone that you'd like answered towards the end of the show, that would be great to hear from you. Any general comments about stuff as well. It's always good to get a bit of interaction going. So any thoughts, any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll address them towards the end of the show. It's lovely to hear questions about various things. Bob's obviously a font of knowledge when it comes to all things music. So any questions, any comments, please leave them in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them as the show goes on.
Absolutely. Cheers, Miles. And we'll be hearing from Miles later as well. Meanwhile, though, we're going across kind of the other side of the home counties in the UK to join my friend Alex Bramer. Alex, are you there? Where are you, my friend? We don't know.
Hello there, Bob.
You're there.
Hi.
I was getting a bit worried then for a minute. Are you okay?
I'd love to tell you. I'm very well. I'd love to tell you I'm in sunny Surrey, but it's been raining this evening. It's not so much as not so much that my son couldn't get out for a cricket training session, so it can't have been that bad.
Okay.
Wasn't that lovely? Wasn't that lovely from Todd Snider? That was really something.
So endearing. You know, he really is incredible. I mean, I think this is album number 18. So, you know, and I remember when he was signed, I can't remember, he was signed to a major label initially. And I think we can hear Emily, can't we? We can hear Emily Barker. Can you hear her, Alex?
I can indeed. It's lovely. We're getting to eavesdrop on them getting ready, which is rather charming, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Todd has been a sort of backbone of my programs through many, many years.
Well, I found it utterly charming, Bob. I really did. And I was getting text messages from my wife in the other room saying how emotional that last song was. I'm expecting to go through and find her a wreck after that. It was really quite something.
Yes.
I can tell you that as we mentioned last week, you know, that we occasionally like to go back a few years and find out what was happening in the archive, in the database archive of your playlists, going back a certain number of years. And I can tell you that this week, 10 years ago, you played Todd Snider on The Country Show. In fact, exactly 10 years ago tomorrow, May the 19th, you played his track, Nashville, from East Nashville.
I've got this one here, actually, I think. Wait, just hold it up to the camera. Yes.
There you go, as if by
and
magic.
Todd, which track did I play? Oh, Nashville. It's the song called Nashville. And I segued it into Nashville Cats, John Sebastian's song by the Lovin' Spoonful.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about how you segue and how you start building your playlist. But I've got to tell you that I am resolved to hear more of Todd Snider. I know far too little. I've been catching up a little bit, but I'm going to delve deep. That was really something. Bob, if it's all right with you, I'd like to talk to you about a couple of playlists. In the first instance, the thing I particularly like to discuss with you is how you build a playlist. We spoke in the very first episode about what's unique about your playlists is that they're not just subject to what's in the charts or what the radio station's playlists are. I know for a fact that you spend an awful lot of time putting a playlist together. The one that I've pulled out, if you happen to have it to hand, that'd be ideal, is from Sunday, May the 18th, 2014. It was the weekend show. Radio 2, Sunday, May the 18th. Good man. And I'm going to let you talk in a minute, my friend, but I just want to know how on earth you build a show that goes from Bruce Springsteen and George Harrison, that makes sense, through Natalie Merchant, Tubeway Army, Tears for Fears, and onwards and upwards, and ends up with, gosh, what have we got? Santana, and then to Mary Hopkin. How does that happen, Bob?
Yes. Via people like Connie Francis and Dave Evans. Well, there were certain... Okay, so when I first started at the BBC, I was incredibly fortunate I was taken under his wing by a producer called Jeff Griffin. Jeff worked with John Peel, and John introduced me to Jeff, who then took me into Radio 1. We did a pilot together, and that eventually led to me sitting in for John on my first programs on Sounds of the 70s on Wednesday evenings, which used to be the slot for the repeat of the In Concert program that John used to host. So this was still relatively old school BBC in those days, and the producers really were very, very hands-on with the creative talent, if you like. They were there to help nurture that creative talent. And this is what Jeff did with me. He began to really teach me the basics of program building, you know, the real nuts and bolts, how to time everything, how to back time everything to make sure that everything goes into an hour and you don't have to fade tracks or you don't underrun or whatever it is. You know, there's lots of things to learn about that. But he also taught me the fundamentals of in a sense, what I call, in my case anyway, the wave shape, how you it's almost like you've got a volume control with the tempo, that you can bring the tempo up, you can bring it down again. I personally love transitions to take you from one mood to another. I tend not to clash musical moods together because I like everything to flow. So that flow through then becomes my watchword, if you like. And the first thing that Jeff taught me about that was you always start the hour with something bright and familiar. And if you analyze my programs, it doesn't matter where it is, I always start the program, and each hour for that matter, with something bright and familiar. And in my case, I add to that by trying to find lyrics that welcome people in. So it's a positive message that you're getting from the first two tracks on a show. They are both saying to you, great, you're here. We've got it's going to be fun. We're going to enjoy it. Come on in. That's the whole idea of the first couple of tracks. I then give the menu of the show, what we've got coming up later. So track 3 probably just reinforces that come in message. But from then on, you're getting much more into the meat of the show. And then I can begin to really look at things like, let's say, one of my favorite segues ever, really. There's a track by Mark Cohen called Strangers in a Car, and there's a track by Jack Bruce called Ships in the Night. And the Mark Cohen track ends on him singing Strangers in a Car, and the Jack Bruce tracks begins with him singing Ships in the Night. They absolutely, it's shivering, spine tingling. And when you get segues like that.
Can you remember what show that was, Bob? Can you remember when that was? What show that was?
No, you could probably look it up, couldn't you, Alex?
I bet I could. I bet before we talk again tonight, I'll see if I can dig it out of the database. I bet I can.
Yeah, because if as a viewer you're new to the Bobcast, this is the first time you've watched, Alex is the man who rescued all the data that had sort of got lost in the ether and the internet when my major site, the big site that had been built up over many, many years, when that sort of dissolved after Les Nealing, who had run that site for years, retired. So Alex and his company 3B Digital have recovered and restored the archive, basically, and much, much more besides. It's an incredible site to visit, to explore around the playlists. We've got a store where it's just a beautiful experience to be in there. And that's the work of 3B Digital. So just to put you into context there, Alex.
Yes, I always need to be put into context. Kind words, Bob, as always. And I think that, what's great about it is to be able to answer that very question. I feel, to that description just now, the two songs sent shivers down my spine. So I'm going to look it up. But that's answered a lot of questions because I've always wondered how you do that. And it is what makes these playlist specials. It is what makes your show special over the year. So thank you for that explanation. I can't promise it's not the last time I'll ask you that question or something related to it.
The other thing, if I may, Alice, the other thing about it is that it's very long form, if you like.
Yeah.
It's time consuming. One of the things about when I was doing the weekend show, I would spend probably 2 or 3 days building that program to the expense of everything else. And eventually, because if you're going to listen to everything, if you're going to give everything a fair hearing, and you genuinely are going to keep your mind open to what you can blend with that, what matches with that, then that is a process. I think of myself in a way as like being an old carpenter or something, nerdling away with these ideas. So, but honestly, it's so rewarding when it all comes together. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, well, I know very well there are certain times of the week we have to leave you alone. There is a lot of work that goes into this, and I'm sure your country listeners appreciate that. I know I do and have done for many years. If there's time, Bob, there's another playlist I'd like to touch upon. It's an Old Grey Whistle Test playlist from St. Valentine's Day, February the 14th, 1978. I wonder how many of the viewers right now can remember who was on that show, but it was a remarkable performance by a very early incarnation of XTC. And I honed in on this today because aside from anything else, it does take us away a little bit from our comfort zone, which of course is sort of Americana and AOR and all the rest of it, to the genius of Andy Partridge. And I suppose the first thing I want to ask you, Bob, is how well you can remember XTC from the early days and what your feeling is about them as a creative force.
Well, I think probably the best way to describe how I feel about it is to describe the impact that they had in the States, where in the 80s and actually particularly in the 90s, they were a campus band in so much as the students, as it were, the next generation students locked into the brilliance of Andy's music and the lyrics of the songs and took XTC to their hearts. And so in the 90s, radio stations in the mid and late 90s were absolutely falling over themselves to get XTC tracks on their programs first. At this point, probably in Britain, we saw them as, the band that did senses working overtime kind of thing. But in America, they were truly appreciated and deeply appreciated for, I don't know, the originality of what they brought. And I have to say, actually, talking about that first 2 or 3 tracks that you have in your show, I can't remember how many times Stupidly Happy was my second track in on my shows, because and the American radio stations just loved it. I got to know Andy a little bit through the years, and going to his studio was in itself a fantastic experience, because a bit like Miles now, Miles has discovered analog, and Andy was still very much working with analog. Everything in the studio linked to everything else. And he had big keyboards that he could feed certain sound into, and then reproduce the sounds with each note of the keyboard. And, it was really an experience going into his environment and seeing how he worked. And so, I'm just full of, he's very shy. That was the only thing. Stage was a problem for him. Eventually,
it really was, wasn't it? It's one of the great tragedies for me that they stopped performing. It was actually one of the very first concerts I ever saw was XTC back in, I think, 81 or 82, and it left quite a mark on me. And I think and he was a remarkable frontman. It was a great irony, a tragic irony, that he suffered so much with stage fright, considering how good he was.
Yeah. Well, Alex, you and I are going to be talking again a little later, aren't we? Because we've got the competition winner to choose. And the competition this week was to create a playlist of all instrumental tracks. So Alex and I will reconvene a little later in the evening and pull out the winning entry into our competition this week. So see you in a bit, Alex.
We shall indeed. Cheers, Bob.
Okay, cheers. But more live music on the program now. And in a moment or two, I'm going to reminisce a little with her, because we've known each other now for not far off 10 years, pretty nearly. But she has magnificent new music out, and we're about to hear a live song from the wonderful Emily Barker.
Someone told me lately, time is killing you. Me, I'm killing time till I find something to make me follow through on the decisions and revisions of a life lived in the margins, like notations of a plan I'm working on. Homeward bound, you won't be homeward bound anymore. Bound for home, I should be bound for home, but I'm not sure. Where does that leave me? Arguing with unreliable memories. You always sound so sure when you recall how it used to be. All the things you left behind, the perfect pictures in your mind, now you no longer get to see if they're still true. Homeward bound, you won't be homeward bound anymore. Bound for home, I should be bound for home, but I'm not sure. If I dig deep down through the cold, cold ground, I would find myself back in my hometown, singing farewell songs as the sun
See, Emily, if I were building a radio program at this particular moment, I'd be looking to match that with Homeward Bound by Simon and Garfunkel. I know that's quite an obvious thing to say, but there's some beautiful Simon and Garfunkel-esque chords and guitar picking in that as well, isn't there? It would match perfectly.
I think you should do it.
So do I. So who have you got there with you? Is that Lukas Drinkwater?
It is indeed Lukas Drinkwater on the double bass.
Hey, Lukas, how you doing?
Very good, thank you. It's nice to be on a show with another Lukas.
Spelt the same way as you, with a K. Lukas with a K.
So this is new music, isn't it? It's a stunning track, Emily. Just tell me about this association with Frank Turner.
Yeah, so when I was writing all the songs for A Dark Memoration of Words, which came out last year, this was one of the tracks that I wrote towards that album. I rang Frank up. We've worked together over many years now, doing a lot of touring together, but we never tried writing a song together before. So I asked him if he was up for writing a song with me, and I went and visited him in London, and a few hours later we had this song. And during the songwriting session, he told me all about Clive James, who I actually, despite being an Australian, wasn't aware of, the late, great Clive James. And he read me a poem of his called Les Sons des Ténèbres, and it sort of talks about his illness and how it prevented him from going home back to Australia. He lived in Cambridge in the UK before he passed away. And I was already talking a bit about homesickness because I'm from Australia, a little country town called Bridgetown, and I've lived over in the UK for about 20 years now. So what ended up emerging in the song was there was this voice of Clive James and his story interweaving with my own story, sort of longing.
It's a stunning, beautiful track, and I'm also interested. You say there about collaborating with Frank, the fact that you wrote the song fairly quickly, in moments almost it seemed that it was done. You've been involved in songwriting retreats and some of the songwriting meetings that take place in Nashville, haven't you, over the last 10 years or so, Emily? Those experiences, are they helping you now in your creative process?
Absolutely. Yeah, I still really enjoy co-writing. And actually, thanks to you, Bob, for bringing me out to Nashville for the first time. That's when I started doing some co-writes. I sort of went into overdrive on that because I hadn't really done it before. And now I only do it occasionally with a few sort of trusted people, I suppose. But there's always so much to learn from those experiences, and quite obviously, but always astonishingly, you end up with a song that neither of you would have written individually, and so it's something that is just born from that union. Yeah.
Is there a moment that you particularly remember working with somebody that you'd admired through the years, and there you are sitting in a writing room with them, and oh my God, is this going to be all right? Did you have those moments?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of all the times. One great one in Nashville I'd heard about, and I love the writing of Amy Speece, and we had a mutual friend put us in contact, and that took quite a long time for us to connect. And so when we finally did write together, we actually drew in Amber Rubath as well, and we ended up forming a band from that, Applewood Road, for an album. Yeah. So it's always full of surprises.
Yes, and Applewood Road. I remember a lovely session you did for my weekend show on Radio 2 at the time.
That's right.
Yeah. Just going back though to your first visit to Nashville, when we went over to Nashville together, we have to credit BBC Introducing in a really big way to make this happen, because I'm a big believer in BBC Introducing, Emily. I'm sure you would probably say the same, because it's a genuinely constructive way that young musicians can get their music uploaded and potentially out to a much wider audience. Because it's very easy to upload music onto the platform, and then it goes automatically. I think that the writer just puts in their postcode when they upload it, and then it's allocated to the BBC local radio station closest to them. Somebody guarantees at that station to listen to it and possibly put it on their own BBC introducing show, but also send it around to the Joe Wyler's and Dermot O'Leary's and Bob Harris's of this world, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's a wonderful way, of getting your music out. And it wasn't me that was just supporting you at that time, was it? Because Dermot had heard you, I think, through that route.
Yes, he'd heard me through that. He'd also, I think it was through him being a fan of crime thrillers, television crime thrillers. So he'd seen Wallander and heard my theme tune, and then he'd seen The Shadow Line, which was on BBC Two. So it had slightly less exposure, but just such a brilliant show. And I had a song used on that one as well. So I think at the time he was doing a show where he usually gets people to do an original and a cover, but he wanted me to come on his show and do 2 crime thriller theme tunes. So I did my 2 songs for that. And actually, it was wonderful to be on his show. And I think I ended up being on it about seven times at least, something like that, being part of his collaborative performances too, with Choir of Angels and things like that.
That's
so
it.
yeah,
really, really good. Well, I was thrilled to take you to Nashville and for BBC Introducing to set up what proved to be a fantastic showcase out there. It got you into Nashville, and I mean, I watched you, Emily, and I would advise anybody to follow your lead in this respect, to use moments like that to talk to people, to network, basically. You know, you were filling your address book with numbers and making friendships that I think probably have served you well ever since.
Yeah, just making friends, like you said. That's a good way of putting it, for sure. And still have so many friends out there who I can't wait to see when we're able to go back.
Yeah, it won't be long.
Yeah.
So would you play another song for us, please?
For sure. Yeah.
You're in Sheffield tonight, aren't you, with the Northern Cowboys?
We are. We're actually all here together, and it's such a buzz. It was so nice. Lukas and I live in Stroud, and just even like packing the van and stepping out of the house with our instruments, going to load the van, and with our flask and making tea on the way, and we chose a couple of CDs each to listen to in the car, and just going on any sort of road trip now is such a big deal. Okay, so we're going to play Machine. Could you give me a beat? I made the world a place easier for me. Money in my pockets over centuries. I'm a celebrated sinner with statues in the park. This world I made is harder the more your skin is dark. I covered all my tracks in books on history, justified my actions through anthropology. I chose what to remember and what we should forget. I covered all my tracks in your blood and sweat. This machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its own. In 1865, everyone is free, but I still get my labor complimentary. Who is working in the prisons now? Look and you will see that in 1865 I disguised slavery. This machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its
keeps me up at night. There are whispers, there are howls, and I feel the wolf will bite. I've been a bully and a sinner. Now I'm on the way out, for the world I made is harder. The more your skin is dark, this machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its own. This machine runs on its own.
Just so good, so good, Emily Barker. And we were talking about dates, and you've got tour dates beginning on the 29th of May, Emily. I think the first one is in Newcastle, is that right? And then there's a little run of them then, which is fantastic news.
Yeah, we're in Newcastle at Gosforth Civic Centre on the 29th, and then the following night in Knaresborough at Hayworth Art Centre. And I can't remember what happens after that, but you're right, there is a scattering of shows through June, and hopefully we'll be at Black Deer on the 25th, which I can't wait for. Yeah.
Emily, it's so good to see you. Thank you very much to you and Lukas. And yeah, all the best. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. You know, obviously, information about all the other dates on Emily's tour, you can find those on her website. Which, talking of which, it's an appropriate link back to my own site and tour dates that you can find on there, where I'm going out on the road with Danny Baker. It's Harrison Baker backstage. It's basically just the two of us on stage telling stupid stories about our rock and roll times. And the dates have now been put back 3 times, but we now actually do go out on the road in October, and you can find all details of the tour dates in the events section on my website. And of course, in charge of all of that on my behalf is Alex Bramer. So are you there, Alex? Yes, you are. Good. Can we hear him? I'm not sure we can hear him, can we? No, I don't think we can. Is that at Alex's end?
Bob, I'm sorry, mate. I think you can hear me now.
Ah, yes, I can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. What do you know? Yes. What did you not done?
I had muted myself because I thought if we keep Lukas Nelson waiting much longer, my wife will be beating down my office door. And right. I didn't think anybody needed to hear that, so I figured we got to do this quickly. Okay, Bob, we need to announce the winner.
We do, and just explain the prize as well, Alex.
Well, the prize is that the entrant is listed on a playlist as the producer. The playlist will appear exactly or pretty close to as it would any one of your normal playlists that appears for throughout the archive for any of your shows down through the ages. You will sign it, and we shall dispatch it to the winning entrant, and I hope that they treasure it. It's a lovely thing. It will look a little bit like that, but without my scribbles on it. There it is. In fact, the winner doesn't know he's the winner yet. So if I do that again, perhaps now he will. Yeah. The winner is
Alan O'Kelly.
Alan O'Kelly.
There we go.
There we are.
Yeah, well done.
There we are.
One of the reasons that I chose this one was because you go across so many genres. I'll just quickly run it through because people have told me how interested they are in these, cross-genre selections. So it begins with Booker T and Green Onions, Mason Williams' Classical Gas, Chariots of Fire by Vangelis, El Dorado Overture by ELO, Fleetwood Mac's Albatross, Sounds orchestral, Cast Your Fate to the Wind, which was part of my teen years. It was in the charts in 1965. Very beautiful it is too. Dave Brubeck, Unsquare Dance, so there's jazz there as well. The Safaris and Wipeout. Eric Reisberg and Dueling Banjos, and Floyd Kramer on the Rebound, which topped the UK chart in 61. And Floyd Kramer, of course, was the pianist who played on so many of Elvis's hits and played with Patsy Cline, and he was part of the Nashville sound actually in the late 50s and early 60s. So I couldn't resist this. Alan O'Kelly, well done. Thank you very much indeed. And I'll be personally posting this off to you in the next few days. Many, many thanks, Alex. Any more news from you? Do we need to say any more about the site?
Well, not really. I hope everybody visits and enjoys it and spends many a happy hour wandering through the archive. I think, are you going to announce what next week's competition is?
Thanks for prompting me. That's a very good plan.
It's
Yes.
almost like I knew what I was doing there.
We want radio songs, please. Songs about the radio, songs that have references to the radio in the lyrics. And WOLD by Harry Chapin, FM by Steely Dan, that kind of thing. So songs about the radio or with radio references in the lyrics. If you could choose 10 for us, please. Go into the website and there's instructions there as to how to post your entry to us. Many, many thanks, Alex. See you again next week.
My pleasure, Bob. Take care.
Okay, and your wife does not have to wait any longer because it's been quite a challenge linking with Hawaii from Oxfordshire, you can imagine. But so we have my great friend Lukas Nelson on Zoom, and Miles has got the phone, and we're hoping that this works, that you get to see Lukas properly and I can talk to him on Miles's phone.
Here he comes.
So here he comes. Hopefully he's going to link in with us right now. Hey, Lukas.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
Really good. Oh, listen, it's so great to see you. How are things with you?
Oh, I can't complain. Happy as a clown. How about you?
Much the same. How long have you been in Hawaii? Has that been your location through lockdown?
The beginning of lockdown, I was in Austin, and then around halfway through. Once they opened it up so that we could come to Hawaii with a test, I think it was November of last year is when I came.
Wow. Yeah. So you've been able to work on the album, presumably, during the time that you've been there.
Yes, we finished the album. Finished tracking it with Dave Cobb before I left. I actually made it to Nashville in October of last year. And then that was kind of before everything re-locked down. And so we were able to spend 2 weeks at RCA Studios and record with Dave there. And then shortly after I took off to Maui, and I've been here since, basically been here since.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
There's loads to talk about. Will you play a number for us first though?
Sure. I thought I'd play, we just released this song for streaming. We hadn't released it to radio yet, but this is one of my favorite songs on the record. Let's see, it's called Leave 'Em Behind. You're gonna waste your house and home, throwing your money away so long. Back to the love you think you know. Gambling woman, don't let your luck run dry your eyes, my baby love. If you really love yourself, you gotta leave them behind. If you really love yourself, you gotta leave them behind. Beautiful face, I see your eye.
on you salvation does rely. Don't let your man take everything. Say goodbye to the one you think you love. If you really love yourself, you gotta leave him behind. If you really love yourself, you gotta leave him behind. Now you see it coming, you can take off running. Try to get the dream on to come true. Say a big Hail Mary and catch that ferry, and I'll be waiting for you. Baby, your friends are here for you. Tell that lying man to stop making excuses why he's mean to you. Let him know the love he stands to lose if he abuses you. If you really love yourself, you gotta leave him behind. If you really love yourself, you gotta leave him behind. You gotta leave them behind.
Oh, it's sounding great, Lukas. It really is.
Thanks.
And you know, I love the idea of working with Dave Cobb also. You must enjoy it so much because he's got a great, I mean, RCA Studios have got a fantastic atmosphere to them anyway, haven't they? And presumably you're in the big room, the big sort of cavernous room where you
Studio
can,
A.
Yeah, and you can set the whole band up there, can't you? And work off each other and basically record kind of live in real time. Is that what you did?
Right. That is what we did. Yeah, and we recorded to an 8-track tape machine, and you know, we just kind of did it, I suppose, like they would have done it back in when my dad recorded there in the 60s.
It's such a, in that way, I hadn't really actually even thought that much about that before. But of course, you know, your dad that's where he was, isn't it, in the early 60s? You know, when he wrote Crazy. I mean, obviously everybody thinks of him as being Austin, but he was in Nashville for a few years, wasn't he? And would have been around
he lived there.
That studio and that vibe.
He lived there for a long time, and so yeah, it was nice to be able to go back and to see the pictures on the wall of him recording when he was around my age, and in the same spot. And yeah, it was really an interesting sort of visit to history.
Mm. How is he, your dad?
He's doing great. He's 88, going strong.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, give him all our best, Lukas, please.
I will, thank you.
So just one final thought before we hear your next song. But, you know, I always think of you and Promise of the Real. You know, you're a band that's out on the road the whole time. And you love playing live. That's what you do. I was thinking what a stress it must have been at certain times to you, not just being able to go out and get on that stage and do that.
Sure. You know, at first it was it was like, I suppose, the energetic momentum going forward. You know, we had just accumulated so much momentum that when we stopped so abruptly, it was as if my soul was projected forward about 300 miles, and it took me this long for it to just come back, you know, into my body, you know, because my soul was still running and my body was still. And so, you know, there was a lot that I had to do in order to tether it back into my body. And I'm glad that I had the time to do that, because now I feel like we're more connected, my soul and I.
And also, probably in the long run, it'll really serve you well in terms of this being an opportunity for you to really, really battery charge. And, you know, you can go again then once you're able to get back out onto the road, because let's face it, the road experience can be a very exhausting experience.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, the one thing about, you were saying when you were here one time that you felt very tired after you know, the promotion of records out on the road. There's a certain pressure about everything the whole time. And that can, you know, you can get very tired. So this opportunity for you to just touch down and kind of reconnect with yourself, I'm sure that in the long run, that's going to serve you really well.
Well, all I can do is try and take the best of it. And that is, I suppose, the best perspective to look at it from. And I am taking it as a recharge. And I'm hoping to get back in force really soon. And there's a lot of positive chatter about that. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to being able to promote and to travel and tour. And, you know, I'll never take it for granted.
Absolutely. I just want to read you finally, when I posted on Instagram earlier, you know, saying that you were coming in on the show. And I put, I was recently asked in a press interview, if there is one musician you would swap lives with, who would it be? I thought this was a good question. My answer, unhesitatingly, it was Lukas Nelson. Partly because I love him as a friend, but also because I think he has his life sorted. Turn off the news, build a garden, pretty much sums it up. Plus, he's able to spend a lot of time in Hawaii, which sounds like paradise to me.
Well, I can't complain. I got to say, I'm very lucky. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know if you want to be me. I think you're pretty happy over there too. I
well, you know,
with you and your with you and Miles and Monty.
Yes. Well, Lucas, if you have a look at the posting and then look at some of the comments that have been made about your good self, and they are so warm and kind and loving towards you. And,
wow.
You know, I think that's how we all feel, without trying to get too funny about any of this. But
well, honestly, no, it's very mutual. I love you guys too. I love you very much. And you know, when I last visited you, it was such a beautiful time spent out in Oxfordshire there, and it was just a gorgeous moment in my life. And I'm glad to see you're doing so well and just rocking and rolling, and I can't wait to get back there. You know,
I just wish I could get into your shirt, because Lukas gave me the shirt off his back, didn't you?
Yes, I remember. Miles actually reminded me of that recently while we were preparing for the interview. And yeah, that's that floral pattern shirt you still got. Well, you know what? Just keep working out and you'll get in there. Or is it too big? Is it too big or too small? I can't tell.
Too small. It's just too small. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm a small
guy.
I
really tried to, because I don't think I would have worn it forever.
Yeah. Well, just put it on the wall or something.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lukas, can we hear a final song from you, please?
Yes. Okay, great. This song is the title of the record. It's called A Few Stars Apart. We're just a few stars apart. Every night you can see my heart shining like a big white diamond in the sky. Traveling at the speed of love, faster than light, you're on the way home. Just a few stars apart and you're not alone. And I'll send you the music like a dream, you know. Riding through the universe, hiding in the notes. And every night will go by, forgetting the stars in the sky.
at the speed of love, faster than light, and you're on the way home. We're just a few stars apart, and you're not alone. And it's hard not to hold you, but I'm still on the ground. I miss the light you gave me, I miss your loving sound. And every night we go back, forgetting the stars in the sky. Just a few stars apart, every night you can see my heart shining like a big white diamond in the sky. Traveling at the speed of love, faster than light, and you're on the way home. We're just a few stars apart, and you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone.
Just wonderful, Lukas. Just so great to see you.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks. Great to see you too. Yeah.
And I hope to see you back in this studio here, perhaps in the not too far distant future.
I'm really hoping so. Yes, it'll be maybe early next year or something. Why not?
That'd be great. Well, love from all of us, and love from Kimmy Rhodes. Kimmy asked me to say
give Kimmy my love too.
I will. Yeah. All right, okay. Lukas. See you
Thank
soon.
You, Bob.
Okay.
All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right. Let me just hand the phone back to Miles. I better put my headphones back on now, hadn't I? Oh, look, I'm across two screens. God, the technology of that was unbelievable.
We got there. That was
so
good.
I just need my headphones back now, please.
Of course.
Lovely. Okay. Wow. That was so enjoyable. I'm so fond of Lukas. I think he's special. There's no doubt about it.
One of the nicest men in the music industry, I think. When he came into the studio here, that must have been, when would it have been, Bob? 2019, 2018 potentially?
2018, I think. And, 3 years ago. Yeah, I was going.
Yeah. Madness. But just what a lovely chap. And I think I could speak for everybody who's watching in the UK right now when I was extremely jealous looking out the window at that view in Hawaii. Oh, my goodness me. Absolutely lovely. So before we depart, Bob, we've got a few comments and questions from the audience, if you would be so nice as to answer a few of them. I've got a couple here. This is a memory more than anything, because I know that we were all reminiscing about career highlights and stuff earlier in the show. And KNS UK said the fondest memory of you, Bob, is being in the USA covering Southern music and coming on camera rather breathless and sweaty, and the camera crew asking, "Where have you been?" And you replied that you'd been playing American football just before you came on air.
Oh, I tell you, wait, should I just tell two quick stories?
Yeah, do it.
Well, I think one of the coolest things ever was we'd gone, Mike Appleton and myself had gone out to Los Angeles to talk to Bruce Springsteen and his manager, Mike Appel, about the idea of of us covering the concert that Bruce did at the Hammersmith Odeon. We didn't in the end show it on the program, but we went into quite some detail as to whether we should and how we should. While we were in LA, it was the time that the Born to Run wave had gone splashing across the States. And Bruce played and the E Street Band played a showcase at the Roxy on Sunset Strip. And the place was absolutely packed. And I remember looking around. George Harrison, I think, was in the audience, and David Bowie, tennis stars, Chris Evert, and was there. Oh, it was sensational. They did 6 encores and
6 encores.
Yeah, and they ended with "Pretty Flamingo," which is always the song that I kind of associate with Manfred Mann's Pretty Flamingo. Anyway, so probably the following day, he and the band were staying at the Sunset Marquee, and Mike and I went over to notorious rock and roll hotel near Sunset Strip. And Mike and I went over to meet up with Bruce and Mike Appel, and long discussions transpired. And we were all getting really bored. So somebody, it might have been Steve Van Zandt, said, let's go down to Malibu Beach and play a bit of handball. And I found myself on Malibu Beach playing handball with the E Street Band. That's one of my top.
Yeah, that's the life.
Yeah,
that's the life, isn't it? Amazing. But that was a separate moment to you playing American football before going on air.
Yeah, no, that was in Miami with the Bee Gees.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Got a really good question here from Tristan, who I know wrote in a couple of times last week as well. Great to hear from you again. And this is a really interesting one, actually, Bob. It's a question for you. He says, so David Hepworth argues that 1971 is the best year for music. Yeah. Do you agree? And if you do, by the sounds of it, you do, would you suggest a runner-up or an alternative year that could share the crown?
Whoa, okay, yes, I will. First of all, I more or less do agree. I think when you look at, just go through any chart of any week in 1971, and it's packed full of classic records that came out that year, Tapestry. If I began to list them, we'd be here all night. These are albums, the legacy of which lasts right to today. In fact, the early 70s was such a rich moment to be in the middle of music. I was so fortunate, to parachute down into Whistle Test in 1972.
Why do you think that was particularly?
Well, I think, okay, so I'm going to answer that by kind of answering the other question, which is, I think that you can argue for 1965, and I say that, maybe 66, one of those 2 years. Mm-hmm. I say that because the bands that burst through with the Beatles in 63 and 4 had now spent a little bit of time in the studio and had got used to the studio more and had learned how to use the studio and had become creative in the studio. So, bands like the Kinks, Ray Davis, in America, the Beach Boys with Pet Sounds, they were making these 3-minute gems at that time before everything expanded into albums. So, 65, I would say, you go through the charts of 65, the singles charts then, and again, it's rare that you don't find a classic. So, yeah. There
you go. A blessed time to be in the center of the music industry, I imagine. Incredible stuff. This is one, I guess, off the back of having Lukas in. Can you remember the first time that you guys met? Rachel Griffin has asked on the chat. She's saying, was it when he was very young? I guess maybe if you were hanging out with Willie around that sort of time. Can you remember when it was you might have first met?
Yeah, and it wasn't when he was young. It's only about 4 years ago. He came into the studio that we use just off Music Row in Nashville when we were recording sessions for the country show. And the more recent one that really connected was Tennille Townes, and the year before it was Lukas. And Lukas came in with his acoustic guitar. He sat down and we started talking, and we just went click. It was amazing. I mean, I knew a lot about Lukas, obviously, from Kimmy Rhodes, who, as we know, Mars, such a long-time friend of Willie's. And, she's known Lukas since he was tiny. Yeah. But we just connected that day, and we've just been friends ever since. And that was, I think that was November 2018.
Yeah, so fairly recent, really. Yeah, considering we're talking about 1965 and 66. Your career goes on for a long time. Well, in fact, actually, Bob, it was your 50th anniversary of broadcasting, wasn't it? Not so long ago. So I think you've probably got more experience than the rest of the team on this show combined. But there we are.
In other words, I'm very, very old.
Well, experienced, wise, I'd say.
Well, actually, come to think of it, we were. There was a show on BBC television over the weekend, John Lennon in 10 photographs, and I took part in that program, and I absolutely loved it. It was a wonderful documentary to be a part of. And part of it was because we got so close to Cynthia Lennon. Yeah. We used to stay with her in her house in Mallorca. And Sin and I, we're not quite of the same generation because she was born soon after John, but we were old enough to say to ourselves, what do we call ourselves? We're the elders. That's what we decided.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I guess just before we wrap up for this week, thank you very much, everybody, for watching once again. Next week, by the way, it's another bumper show. We were saying earlier on how lucky we are with the quality of guests we're getting in, because on next week's show, we have such talent as Richard Thompson, John Smith, and Kathleen Edwards, who will all be joining us live here in the Under the Apple Tree studio. Can't wait for all three of those, three fantastic artists in their own right. Really excited for that. If you'd like to get involved with the Bobcast, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can do just below us right now. There's a little section where you can sign up to the crowdfunding, and in sort of response to letting us do this, I guess, and helping us keep studio running, keep everything ticking over, you can give us a little bit of money, and in return, we'll give you some special Bobcast merch and credits and stuff. You can see a little bit of it flashing up on screen there. There's various little tiers you can get: mugs, t-shirts, postcards, signed paraphernalia, all that good stuff. So we really appreciate all the support, and we really appreciate you all watching. By the way, those of you who have already pledged to support the Bobcast, merch is being sent out very soon, hopefully in time for the next show. So you may well see Bob sporting a Whispering Bobcast mug and t-shirt on next week's show.
We're going to dress the set, Miles.
With
merch.
We definitely will. Thanks to all the team who are involved in the show, as always, and thanks to all the guests who've been part of this week. Once again, it's been fabulous. If you want to catch up, if you're tuning in late and want to watch the rest of the show, or you want to share this with friends and family, this link will be live for the next week, so you can catch up until the broadcast time of next week's show if you want to watch any of it again. And aside from that, I think we are pretty much done for this week. Bob, any last thoughts for this show?
Well, just hope you enjoyed it. It was great linking up with everyone. And I say that we've got such a fabulous lineup again next week, and we just very much hope that you're there to join us for that.
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next week on the Whispering Bobcast.
Okay, bye-bye.